A young noblewoman discovers a deserted and abandoned island in the North Atlantic. An ill-fated love affair unfolds aboard a colonization vessel. A child is born and dies in complete isolation. The outcome is a remarkable story of triumph over overwhelming adversity. Today, we bring you the incredible true story of Marguerite de la Roque, a noblewoman from 16th century France whose life took a tragic turn when she was left for dead on a deserted island with no hope of returning home. She rose to prominence as one of history's most extraordinary lone survivors, a tale of familial betrayal, forbidden romance, and superhuman resolve. In 1542, the French Empire under King Francis I sought to expand into the Americas. A group of Frenchmen, led by Viceroy Jean-François de Roberval, prepared to establish the first permanent French colony in North America. Among the passengers was Roberval's cousin, Marguerite de la Roque, a noblewoman of about 17 and an orphan under his protection. What began as an exciting voyage toward a new life soon transformed into a terrifying ordeal that would test the limits of human endurance. Marguerite's story comes to us through scarce and at times contradictory historical sources. The most detailed accounts come from the writer Marguerite de Navarre, who included a version in her collection Heptameron, and André Thevet, cosmographer to the King of France, who personally knew Marguerite after her return to Europe. Piecing together these fragments reveals the remarkable fate of this young, honorable woman. Even under the best circumstances, a 16th century Atlantic crossing was a hellish ordeal. Months spent in cramped quarters, inadequate food, frequent illness, and the constant threat of the ocean. The nobility aboard found the journey especially challenging, unfamiliar as they were with such hardships. Perhaps Marguerite sought solace amid these dangers, or perhaps she was simply swept away by youthful passion. But she became romantically involved with a young man aboard the ship. Depending on the source, he was either a common seaman or a low-ranking nobleman. When their affair came to light, Roberval, strict and ultra-Catholic, was outraged by what he considered his ward's scandalous and immoral behavior. Roberval saw Marguerite's actions as an irreparable stain in an era where family honor was paramount. Moreover, any breach of social order was perceived as a challenge to the commander's authority, especially on a colonizing mission where discipline was vital. Roberval decided to administer a punishment so severe that it is hard to comprehend. Roberval ordered that Marguerite, her lover, and an elderly servant known only as Damiens be left ashore near a barren island in the Strait of Belle Isle, likely the Isle of Demons, now called Belle Isle, off modern-day Quebec's coast. According to Thevet, they were given rudimentary provisions, an arquebus, gunpowder, lead for hunting and defense, and a few minor items. Other versions claim they were stripped down to their undergarments. On this island, near total isolation awaited them. The Isle of Demons, located in a harsh climatic zone, endured icy winds year-round. Vegetation was sparse, low bushes and lichens even in summer. Rainfall was their only steady source of fresh water, and there was no natural shelter. Polar bears posed a constant threat, making occasional visits to the island. The island's ominous name stemmed from sailors' tales of supernatural screams heard as they passed. Perhaps the wind howling through the rocks, or worse, the cries of other castaways abandoned there. Worse still for Marguerite was that she was pregnant by her lover and forced to give birth in primitive conditions without modern medicine. The struggle for immediate survival must have consumed those first desperate months. Securing food and water and building shelter became urgent tasks. Historical accounts reveal that the young couple used the arquebus to hunt small animals and seabirds and gathered eggs from the island's steep cliffside bird colonies. The unfortunate fate of Marguerite's lover was grim. Conflicting accounts surround his death. Some say he fell ill, others that he died in a hunting accident. Whatever the cause, Marguerite was soon left entirely alone, relying solely on her aging servant, Damiens, as she prepared to give birth in one of the harshest climates on Earth. In the dead of winter, when the island's unforgiving conditions worsened, Marguerite gave birth. Without proper care, warmth, or nourishment, the infant survived only a week or two. According to Thevet's account, Marguerite dug small graves in the island's rocky soil to lay both her child and her lover to rest. Shortly after, Damiens passed away, likely from old age and exhaustion, leaving Marguerite utterly alone. Barely over 20 years old, the young noblewoman now faced the most extreme isolation any human has ever endured, especially under such brutal circumstances. Her struggle extended beyond mere physical survival. The greater challenge was preserving her sanity in the face of profound loss and total solitude. Historical accounts tell of Marguerite's gradual adaptation to the island's wild fauna, drawn from her testimony. She mastered the art of hunting, learning to set traps when her limited ammunition ran low. She identified edible seaweeds and plants and devised ways to collect and store rainwater. Using stones, animal skins, and driftwood, she built a sturdier shelter. Remarkably, she even confronted and killed 3 polar bears, formidable threats that endangered her very life. Perhaps the most fascinating aspect of her ordeal, according to Thevet's records, was how Marguerite maintained her mental strength in utter isolation. Faith in God was her anchor during this deeply Christian era. She believed that because she was still alive, God had not abandoned her, despite her past sins. The Bible, one of the few possessions she reportedly brought to the island, provided her with comfort and peace whenever she read it. How long Marguerite remained on the island remains a mystery. Estimates range from 2 to 5 years. Her rescue, when it came, was purely accidental. The island was believed to be uninhabited until Basque fishermen, whale hunters familiar with the area, discovered signs of human presence and decided to investigate. They were stunned to find a European woman dressed in animal skins, her hair wild and unkempt, her skin weathered, but alive and remarkably lucid. The fishermen escorted Marguerite back to Europe. Her return was as extraordinary as her survival. The once abandoned, scandalized young woman re-emerged as a heroic savage, someone who had triumphed over death where even the strongest men had failed. French society at the time saw a bitter irony in her story. The condemned sinner displayed greater Christian virtue, tenacity, faith, and courage than her pious, upright guardian. As for Jean-François de Roberval, his fate was far less heroic. His attempt to establish a French colony in the Americas ended in failure. Scurvy and famine claimed many colonists during the brutal Quebec winter. Those few who survived and returned to France within a year were among the toughest. Some historians argue that the colony's downfall was hastened by Roberval's harsh, authoritarian rule, his severe punishments for even minor offenses sowing discontent. By 1560, the French wars of religion had intensified, leading to Roberval's reportedly religiously motivated death in Paris. What happened to Marguerite after her return remains debated. Thevet claims she eventually settled in the Périgord region of France, where she gave interviews and lived a simple, honorable life. Other accounts suggest she may have married and spent her remaining years quietly in her homeland. One fascinating detail that TV documentaries have revealed is that after Marguerite returned to France, she never again slept in a proper bed. Instead, she continued to sleep on the floor with nothing more than a simple arrangement of blankets and animal skins, just as she had done during her years of seclusion on the island. Over the centuries, Marguerite's story has inspired countless literary works. As early as the 16th century, Queen Marguerite of Navarre included a dramatic retelling of her ordeal in the anthology Heptameron. In the 19th century, Canadian historian François-Xavier Garneau referenced the tale in his writings. More recently, it has been explored in Elizabeth Baer's survival narrative, Marguerite de la Roque and Suzanne Desrochers' Bride of New France, both published in the 21st century. Blending almost archetypal elements, Marguerite de la Roque's saga has captivated generations. The transformation of a sheltered aristocrat into a fierce, self-reliant survivor, the cruel punishment for forbidden love, and the brutal fight for survival in one of the harshest environments imaginable. Marguerite's survival was truly revolutionary in a society that viewed noblewomen as weak and dependent. While her story did little to immediately change contemporary views on women's abilities, it challenged those biases with quiet but undeniable power. Viewed through a modern lens, her ordeal raises profound questions about justice, the abuse of power, and the extraordinary resilience of the human spirit. After all, her guardian, both relative and viceroy, had effectively sentenced her to death for a transgression that even today would be considered minor. This tragic tale stands as a sobering warning. Unchecked authority, especially when combined with rigid religious or moral dogma, can lead to devastating cruelty. At the same time, Marguerite's endurance highlights the incredible adaptability of humans. Even now, centuries later, Marguerite de la Roque's story remains a powerful testament to resilience and perseverance. This young French noblewoman not only survived an island where nature itself seemed determined to destroy her, but she also discovered untapped inner strengths she never knew she possessed. Knowing that, like Marguerite, we may all possess hidden reservoirs of power and endurance, ready to be unleashed when we confront seemingly insurmountable challenges, can inspire us the next time life challenges us. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon for more inspiring tales of survival and human courage. And leave a comment below to tell us which historical figure you'd like to see featured next.